Hello and welcome to another update video about Natgas. So it seems like we have this situation that we get a bit of an extended B wave to the downside. Yesterday we talked about possibly further downside into this orange support area. I think it was 241. I did take it now off the chart because it became irrelevant, this support area. It was not respected by the chart. So yesterday we had the situation in the video that we talked about a C wave to the downside here. Yeah, possibly a little bit more downside, possibly correction already complete. And I highlighted that a drop below 241 will invalidate, or basically invalidate here, a direct breakout. So it did drop below that, came actually down to around 236, below the previous low here of the 13th of March. And yeah, that forces basically an adjustment of the count to a larger B wave. So at the moment, I'm still leaning towards further upside in a C wave, but it's become less likely now. It has clearly become less likely because this would have been an ideal time to turn around and to rally from the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level. However, we are still in the same setup. Nothing has changed. There's just a little bit, I mean, there's a lot of intraday volatility going on here, of course. And whenever we have these support areas, I mean, I can't always make a video when we hit a support area. Obviously, you need some kind of a reaction in the support area to indicate that the trend has shifted back to the upside. Yeah, because if you just rush through, then it is not that setup. That setup doesn't work out. And that's why we have those signal levels, like here, for example, the 222 level. If we lose 222, this C wave to the upside is most likely not going to work out. And it will tell us, it will give us the important hint that this wave 4 was probably already in here and that we're coming down already to make a new low. That's currently not my primary expectation. It's of course a possibility that the fourth wave finished here already with that spike on the 3rd of March. But the problem is that this whole move here as a fourth wave, if I compare that to the entire chart and the length of the decline here that started back in December, yeah, then this wave 4 is too weak. Yeah, but if we measure that by Fib retracements, I mean, ideally I would like to see at least $3.19 on the way up, yeah. But so far we haven't, well, we have come close, but we haven't reached 319, and that is normally the first level that we would expect here because it is the minimum target for a fourth wave. Now, minimum doesn't mean it has to get there, but it means it is normally what you would expect. Yeah, and if it doesn't reach there, then it typically means that the scenario isn't yet fulfilled. And therefore, we are waiting for further upside here in a C wave also, because the move to the downside is currently corrective. So from that point of view, nothing has changed here. The yellow support area is still holding. Yeah, the red resistance area is still holding. All we have to deal with at the moment is a little bit of volatility here in that box. And as I said before, for me, the 222 level is really the relevant one here for this higher wave 4 to play out. That's why I would personally set my stop loss below that level, because below that level, it will shift odds significantly towards making a new low, basically, right? And that would unlock the scenario that wave 4 was already finished and we get the wave 5 just a little bit earlier. So as you know, another low for Natgas is still expected anyway. For example, I just need to look at the MACD, the monthly MACD. That gives me a good hint that the downtrend momentum is still unfolding, yeah, and that we haven't seen the low yet. For now, at least, we can expect that, yeah. But it's quite simple. And that's no change to previous videos. So as long as we're holding 222, the focus could be on the upside. Note, however, that the closer we get to 222, of course, probabilities will increase that we are going to make a new low. On the other hand, you get a better reward to risk ratio. That's unfortunately the paradox we traders or investors have to deal with. The lower the price goes in such a standard Fib support area, the more the higher the likelihood that it will eventually break, but it will give us a better reward to risk ratio. And therefore, it's not so important to look at how many trades are successful or not. Trading by reward to risk is much more profitable because you can win only 3 out of 10 trades, and if your reward to risk ratio is decent, for example 8-1 or whatever, which is quite good, but you know, you get this, you find these trades, then there's no problem in having only 3 out of 10 successful trades if the reward to risk, if these 3 trades will pay for the 7 losses, for example. So yeah, it's all about reward to risk, and the better the reward compared to the risk, the better typically the trade. Yeah, and that's all we can do. We can only look for those reward to risk setups that are favorable. And that's really what it's about. Yeah, I had 1 or 2 comments of people who just don't understand what the Elliott wave method means, and I always find that sad, because there's so much potential, and people who open up to learning this can do so well. But it's if I read something like oh, you constantly have to adjust accounts, it doesn't work. Of course it works. I mean, of course you have to adjust accounts because the price moves. I mean, it's a dynamic tool. Yeah. And of course I have to, if I draw a trend line, I have to redraw a trend line. If it breaks at some point, a trend line will break. The same way an Elliott wave count will break at some point. Yeah. It's just a signal that the trend has shifted in the other direction, yeah, or that the alternative scenario is working out. The same way is here. If you have a descending wedge, I mean, you have a trend line here. Eventually, you wait for it to break to take a trade, right? It's the same story with Elliott waves. I think it might be hard to grasp or to understand for some people, but it's the same thing. You wait for a signal to take a trade. So with a trend line, I mean, if the trend line never breaks, it will break at some point because it gets too obvious at some point. So at some point you trade this stuff until it breaks. You can trade pullbacks to trend lines until it breaks. But there's nobody in the world who would say a trend line doesn't work just because it will break at some point. It's a tool that can be used the same way as you can use Elliott waves. And I always find it a bit sad if people don't even try to understand how Elliott waves work. And then I always get these comments, people try to predict the future. Nobody knows the future. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Of course, nobody has a crystal ball. And I don't say I have a crystal ball. It's simply a tool that allows you to identify high reward and low risk trades. And this is a high reward, low risk trade, because this is a trend reversal area, the yellow one. The price simply hasn't reversed yet. And this is quite decent reward to risk from there to there. Yeah. Why is that? Because if we say minimum target 319, I mean, that's at least, again, there are no certainties, there are only probabilities. But if you say, okay, you enter here, let's say minimum target, let's say, okay, 320, 319, you set your stop loss below the yellow box, right? And what do you get? You get a 5 to 1, no, yeah, basically a 5 to 1 reward to risk ratio. Yeah, and if it goes higher, which it can, then you get an even better one. And those are the trades that the Elliott wave method allows us to identify. It's what is technical analysis? Technical analysis, or what I do here, is basically I produce trades. That's what it is. It's basically a factory for trades, setups. That's the output. That's the output that you get. It's the trades. It's the setups. Yeah. High reward, low risk setups. It's not trying to predict the future, reading the stars or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It's just sometimes frustrating when people don't even try to understand. I mean, I'm always here. You can ask questions, yeah. But simply trying to say it doesn't work because nobody knows. Of course, nobody knows the future, right? But yeah, I mean, these people just lose the opportunity, unfortunately, yeah. And it's all about learning. I mean, technical analysis is anyway the only tool really that helps you to trade and find those reward to risk ratios that are reliable. And I think the Elliott wave method is the best one of these. You can use other tools, but the generally technical analysis shows you what is now in the chart, because you can only, I mean, I always say live in the present, yeah, trade in the present. You can only identify and read and see what you see. Okay, so you can only trade the current setup. I don't know what happens tomorrow, right? We can only trade reward to risk what's measurable. What fundamental analysts try to do, and that's always why it's flawed. Yeah, fundamental analysis, many or most professional investors don't use it. It's something that many retail investors still use. Trading by news or whatever, or trying to look at the weather forecast, and apparently people can try to predict the prices based on the weather forecast. I don't know how that works, but that's trying to predict the future, and that's fundamental analysis, and it doesn't work. But technical analysis doesn't try to predict the future. It shows you what happens in the chart now. Where is your risk and where's the reward, and that you can just trade that, right? So it's very simple. So it's unfortunately there's this misconception, unfortunately, and I always try to educate, and that's also why, I mean, apologies, I had to talk about that, because I try to educate as well, at least try to help the people who want to be helped and who want to understand and learn this. The people who don't want to, well, they get banned because, you know, if you don't like them, just don't watch them. That's it. Okay, that's my update about Natgas. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.